Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, all. Thank you so much for joining today's webinar. Today, we have an exciting webinar focused specifically on the financial services industry, and I'm delighted to have Luise here from Beck. Beck is one of the historically one of the oldest in the technology world companies focused on the financial industry. They've been doing this for more than 50 years. And Luise today will share with us some of the best practices as it relates to employee adoption, employee enablement. What you'll learn in today's webinar is really key practice areas used by successful programs to meet compliance, because as you can imagine, in the financial industry, regulatory compliance is a critical component of any transaction. Driving digital transformation. As fintech companies come on board, a lot of the traditional financial service institutions are challenged in new ways. And really, at the end, ultimately, to make the experience for the customer as best as possible. So, digital transformation leads directly to improved customer experience and the last best experience that the customer will have with the institution. You will also listen and learn a little bit about tangible ways to demonstrate how your organization can deliver value when it comes down to shaping customer-centric culture. And we will also talk a little bit about practical setups and program designs and technologies that worked in 2021 and moving forward. With that, I would like to welcome Luise. And Luise, could you provide a little bit of background on Beck? I've given a very brief introduction, but it'd be great to get a little bit more detail from you.
Yes, you're given a good introduction. Thank you, Riz. So Beck serves around 20 banks in Denmark with financial technology, so to ensure that they can provide solutions for their customers and their advisors. And we are around 1,400 people located in Denmark and Poland. And we have around 2.1 million bank customers to serve as primary bank, and also some 29% of business customers use a BC bank. So we are a non-profit organization, which is a little special for us. And our goal is to balance the income and the expenses to ensure that our customers, the bank, get the most value out of using BC as IT financial company. We have a revenue in 2020 around 2.1 Danish kroner. So that
Wow,
was a little bit around us.
that's fantastic. Wow, I mean, it's interesting. You mentioned, we talk about financial services industry, and they mentioned nonprofit. It's
Yeah,
almost like an oxymoron. It doesn't go in the same sentence, but it's
yeah.
fantastic to see such an institution being successful for so long. As we're turning the corner as far as the pandemic's concerned, as economies open back up, there's a lot of new opportunities and challenges that the financial institutions and banks are facing around the world. Can you touch a little bit on what are some of the most pressing challenges you see the banks are facing in 2021 and beyond?
Yes, we can see that the revenue are pressing the market. So the places where the banks 10 or 5 or 20 years ago earned their money, that is under pressure. So, and also, as you mentioned in the beginning, new fintech company is also coming to the market, and therefore we need to ensure that we can provide the digital change to meet the customers' needs.
Fantastic. And we mentioned fintech, right? And I think
Mm.
it was interesting. I was in a seminar, one of the design things seminars, before I took this role on as CEO of Acima at IBM, frankly. And I still remember to this day as we were going through the design think with one of the institutions, and at that time, what's going to be the next disruptor in the financial services industry, right? And as I
Yeah.
sat there and I thought about, well, if I have all of my savings, lifelong savings in the bank, I'm not so sure I want my traditional bank to be a disruptor. I don't want it to be, because to me that
Yeah.
provides, that creates a sense of insecurity as far as the consumer is concerned. So with that, when you think about digital transformation, as you roll out new technologies in financial institutions, as a director of implementation, what are the challenges you're seeing from a culture perspective and also from a technical perspective within these banks?
Yes, I think there's a constant demand in the market, as you say, for efficiency and support great customer experiences, but also that we as an IT provider can hand over the ownership to the bank for the organizational change, and therefore it is very important that we have a flexible platform that can support a standard bank, a reference bank perspective, and so that they also can make some individual development on the top of it. So therefore, we need to translate the change to the bank, but we also need to do it through some demos and some training and some handbook to provide that they own the change after us. So that is some of the biggest challenges, but also the biggest experiences on the other side.
Yeah, you mentioned from a technical perspective, those are the big challenges, right? And when you think about digital transformation, one of the key components of a successful digital transformation project is ultimately the culture within the institution of
Yes.
how the employees adapt that technology, how
Mm.
employees use that technology to frankly deliver better outcomes for the institution, ultimately in this case for customers, right? So can you speak a little bit about the challenges that relates to employee adaptation, employee training, and where ASEMA and Beck partnered together to deliver a solution to address those
Yeah.
challenges.
Yes, so exactly as you said, around the digital change or change in general, there's a lot of things around it. So there's the mindset and the culture that you can build up upon, but then there also is the knowledge, and it is in the knowledge part that ASEMA can support BEC, because before ASEMA we did a lot of face-to-face training. We created training material in PowerPoint or other things, and now we can do it in a more uh, user-friendly way, so we can translate it, the digital change around the knowledge with the ASEMA solution. So we can make videos and other platforms, and then we can build the awareness and desire for the change around the knowledge that we use the ASEMA platform for.
Fantastic. And when you talk about some of the challenges that were solved, you touched a little bit on traditional training or employee adaptation, where, it was either using PowerPoint slides or even, screen capture and things like that. How did you see that ASEMA was, the solution that we partnered together on? How was it different and in delivering the value to the customer? And how do you think, what was that achieved as far as the challenges are concerned?
Yes, I think that we use the ASEMA DAP platform. We also use the training part of the ASEMA platform, and we actually get very good feedback on the ASEMA DAP platform on the user side, because they actually seen it as a local butler who can serve them together where then they provide advisory for their customers. So the big challenge that we solved was that we could actually have this three-in-one part that we get out of the train, because we both get the demonstration, the do it, and the guide part. So that was actually some work that we did before, but in other tools, and now we have the three-in-one. So by that side, we have actually saved some work around providing the knowledge material.
Fantastic. And I see, on this slide here, it's a little bit of a
Yeah.
graph that kind of shows how things are, kind of put together. Can you
Yes.
talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, that is actually the DApp platform, and that is where we guide the banks to actually provide these assist part to actually help the users when they do the work and in practical. So that is here that we come with recommendation. We tested before go live what are the right recommendations. So we have some user tested before, and then when we roll out, then they will have the help in the solution.
Okay, fantastic. What would you, you clearly, you've been involved in this industry for quite a long time. Beck has been doing it for half a century and more. What are the, as a director of implementation, what are some of the lessons learned that you would, suggest to other directors, directors of implementation in a similar type of situation, especially when it comes down to employee support, employee adoption, and employee usage of frankly, some significant investments that our enterprises make when it comes down to digital transformation.
Yes, so I think it's a two-in-one question. So to actually make this investment, as you said, then it's very important to actually build around your business case and be sure of what kind of pains do you have today that you would like to have solved, and then we of course need to we have tested it and we have planned the releases in good time before, so that we know how to do it when we roll out. And in the part where we were in dialogue with you around the platform, we did some good POCs together to actually see how the platform was working together with our solutions. And therefore we always test the platform and test the releases before we put it out. And since we also have 20 banks that we serve, we also have this need for multi-tenancy, and we also tested that a lot. So basically, I think the important part is to analyze and decide what kind of pains does the SEMA software solve for you. Is it a complement to other tools that you have in your toolbox? Is it a process tool, e-learning tool, or what kind of existing procedure or guidance that you have today with this solutions solve for you, and what do you not need to do anymore? Because that is very important part of adapting it. You need to stop doing something when you start doing something new.
Yeah,
That is another with all kind of changes, right?
yeah, sorry, I cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I just saying that in all kind of changes, you need to stop doing something when you start doing something new, right?
Yeah, yeah, no, and it's interesting you mentioned that, right? Because as we can't, it's like we can't ignore what we've just been through as far as, and we're going through, frankly, hopefully at the end of the situation as far as the pandemic is concerned,
Mm.
and frankly, how societies have changed when it comes down to not only your workforce of how you work, where you work, but frankly of how you engage with if I'm a consumer and with a retailer, with a bank. So moving forward, Luis, how do you see, in light of the pandemic, in light of the transformation that's taking place in the financial services industry, the new fintechs that are frankly emerging that are going to challenge, like in the US, we have a big fintech called SoFi, which is completely transforming the traditional banking industry, or Robinhood, for example, for online trading, right? Um,
Yeah.
a- and as traditional banks look to continue to not only lead but be that stability, right? Something I touched on earlier. I don't necessarily want my bank to be a disruptor or be disrupted, because that's where I've worked and put all my money in. I don't want them to be taking unnecessary risks and so on and so forth. So in light of all that, how do how do you see, where do you see the banking industry going in the next 5 to 7 to 10 years? Obviously, I'm asking you to look into your crystal ball
Yeah.
because it's virtually impossible. But based on your knowledge and your background, where do you see where do you see the changes happening?
I think, first of all, I think the pandemic had learned us that customer centricity can come two ways. So we have all learned to have these virtual meetings, and I think the customer will expect us to serve them with exceptional customer experience, both in the virtual and also face to face when that's possible again. So I think for the banking industry, it's very, very important to be aware of, and for us as IT provider, it's very, very important to be aware of that we need to serve both needs in the future. And also, I think we will see large transformations. We can see that all the compliance part that is regulating the sector as well, and I think that will continue. But also, as you said, new upcoming fintech companies will also um, change the market, I think, and are also actually challenge the customer experience, and that we need to be sure where to stand, and of course we need to be aligned with our customers around that.
Absolutely. And thank you for that. So before we leave, I'd like to ask, what would be the one takeaway that you think that the listeners of this webinar should pay attention to, and what would they leave with? What would that be?
Yeah, we have talked a lot about changes, but I think we also, when we look back, we have also had a lot of changes in the past. So I think we just need to to see that we are in constantly transformation as change agents, and our job is actually to make it as easy as possible for the target group of the change to actually embrace it and to get benefit out of it. So the intelligence tools and clear messages around will support that we actually benefit from the transformation. And I think that is our job, to support that in the best way.
And that's great, right? And at the end, I've been in the IT industry as you have for quite a while, right? And I think most of the institutions around the world, when they look to invest in technology, gone are the days where you invest in the most shiny tool, right? It's all about delivering the outcome and the value they can deliver. And when you talk about digital transformation, that's a key component of it. Is if I'm an enterprise and I'm going to invest in a digital transformation type of a play within my organization, what is the return on investment that I'm getting? So in light of that, when you look at the traditional employee support or employee training versus how Beck was able to use some of the tools that Asima was able to offer, can you speak a little bit about kind of the business case that needs to be developed, the ROI that frankly a solution such as Asima's DAP or Train can deliver to the customers, which frankly need to be articulated in order to help the clients understand how much, frankly, investment that they're losing by not empowering the employees to have the skills that they need.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that you need to look into what are you doing today. So what kind of training are you doing before you invest in a platform, and what kind of training do you not need to do anymore? So actually, before we were doing a lot of face-to-face training, so we were gathering people from different part of the country to participate in training. That is not a need that we have so often anymore. So all these costs for travel, to sit in a classroom, to have classroom training, and actually provide also training material for that. That is not something that we are doing to that extent anymore. So that is actually a part of it. And also, as I mentioned before, the three-in-one part. That so you capture the train, you capture the demo of the system, and you can train the people on that. And when you have captured that, you have a three-in-one guide. So you have the demonstration while your users can actually train in the new system tool, and that's actually a really, really great feature. And then you also have a video of the system that the users can revisit afterwards. So they can, and we also see that the users actually revisit the guides. Then you also have the demonstration part where you have the steps provided step by step what you actually do in the tool, and that is something that have made a great effort to the business case from our perspective. But that, because that means that two steps that we did before that we don't need to do anymore.
Fantastic. With that, Luis, I thank you for your time today. This was really delightful for me. I learned a lot. Clearly, the industry is challenged with a lot of not only new opportunities, but the new ways that they're going to have to engage with the customers moving forward. I would welcome the participants to join us for questions and answers. We're available. If we can dig into anything deeper, we would appreciate it. Thank you so much for attending, and we look forward to a further conversation.
Thank you.